Maya's day had begun like any other, polishing silverware and sweeping marble floors in the cavernous kitchen of the Cartwright mansion, mopping up spills and ordering wall-to-ceiling portraits of ancestors by the light of a single chandelier. Though the rooms were grand, the air felt empty. The master bedroom, where the millionaire stayed, was always locked. The study door seldom opened, and the boy Ethan was rarely seen. Maya was a background figure, a shadow in silk-trimmed hallways, hardly acknowledged beyond the occasional curt nod or clipped "thank you." Yet in the hours before dawn, while frost still dewed the rose garden and owls drifted home to their nests, she had whispered goodnight to Ethan in his nursery, the one warmth this mansion granted her, and tucked his teddy bear beside him. She hummed a lullaby as she left, her heart full of gentle resolve that nothing would harm that golden-haired child. It was mid-morning when the acrid smell reached her first, a faint, chemical sting that she noticed only because she paused mid-swish, mop in hand. A flicker of anxiety rose as she followed the scent past the marble archway into the long hallway lined with crimson carpets. Overhead, hidden speakers began a low, ominous click. Maya froze. The temperature nudged upward. Her breath caught. She pressed her gloved palm to her cheek, sensing the slightest tremor in the master wing. Her eyes darted to the gulf of corridors, the nursery door shut, the study door shut, every door shut. Then came the barely audible pop, pop, like dry kindling sparking to life. In her chest her heart thundered. Her mind spun two words, "Ethan, baby," and she dropped the mop. The wet head slapped the marble, water sluicing across the tile in rivulets. The hush cracked. Smoke curled under the hallway ceiling, tendrils of black creeping outward like ink spilled on silk. Maya's throat went dry. She sprinted, tearing at her apron strings with trembling fingers. The fabric fell at her feet as she bolted barefoot, tiny, grainy burns blossoming on her solace toward the staircase. Every framed portrait stared down, cold eyes of marble-faced ancestors judging her intrusion into a tragedy they should have prevented. Before she reached the steps, the study doors flew inward with a roar. Heat cascaded, a wave of orange light sweeping the hallway. Curtains of opulent fabric, heavy and stained with gold, ignited in a sudden flare. The chandelier shook. Maya's vision blurred with tears or smoke, she couldn't tell which. She paused at the base of the stairs, inhaling through her mouth to keep her lungs from searing. Then she saw him, Ethan, clutching his bare and sooty arms. Standing frozen at the top of the stairs, fear etched on his round cheeks. He coughed a brittle, choking sound. "Ethan!" Maya screamed, but the wall swallowed her voice. The child's skin glimmered gray in the haze. He looked at her, eyes wide, the color of summer skies, but unmoving. Maya didn't think. She just ran. Step by step, she climbed through the inferno in front of her, feeling the rails paint blister beneath her grip, each plank of wood beneath her feet screaming. The smoke stung her eyes, her lungs, her very soul. She swallowed panic, focused on the boy. Halfway up, a rush of heat forced her to crouch, hands shielding her face. Her apron, cast aside below, was gone, consumed. She grabbed Ethan's ankle, yanking him toward her. His arms encircled her shoulders, breath ragged against her throat. "It's okay," she gasped, voice hoarse. "It's okay." She wrapped him in her arms, pressing him close. His small body trembled like a leaf in a storm. Behind them, the flames devoured the corridor, nothing but embers and shadows. The back stairwell was already blocked, black smoke roiling. She spun, searching for an escape. A window, gleamed at the end of the hallway. They were on the second floor. Panic coiled in her chest like a living thing, but she wasn't recklessly terrifying. She was calm. She shifted Ethan toward her hip and raced, fingertips skimming along scorching wood paneling to the window. Her fingers found the latch. It wouldn't budge. Her knuckles skinned, she kicked the frame. On the third strike, wood splintered. It gave way with a crack like a whip. She seized a nearby brass lamp, heavy, old-fashioned, and brought it down on the glass. A shower of jagged shards rained into the corridor. She cleared the pain with her hands, cutting, bleeding, stinging, and saw the manicured lawn below. It was only a 2-story drop, but to her it felt like a chasm. She stood on the sill, held Ethan close, his tears hot against her neck. "I've got you," she whispered over and over. Then, together, they jumped. The world slowed. She braced for impact, burning ankles and broken bones be damned, her arms a cradle around him. The grass rushed up. They hit with a thud and a spray of pain. Maya's knees bent, her ankle twisting sharply. She gasped, grit her teeth, but didn't release him. They tumbled across the sod, sliding into an embrace of dirt and blood and skin. Her body quaked, shock roaring through her veins, but his small arms locked around her neck wouldn't let go. Somewhere the mansion belched fire and apocalyptic bloom. Roof tiles exploded, windows bled flame, and the front porch collapsed in a cascade of sparks. Maya lay flat on her back, Ethan atop her chest, both of them gasping. His face, streaked with ash and tears, looked up at her, and for a second time paused. Then came distant screams, voices of neighbors spilling into the dawn, urgent footsteps, car doors slamming, shouts of alarm. A woman's voice rang out, "Call 911." A man's voice barked, "Help him, someone, help the child." But Maya heard only Ethan's tiny whisper, "They knew I was inside." Her blood ran cold. They? Who? Her breath caught on the absurdity of that word. There was no one else, no staff, no parent, no servant but her. She looked behind. The convertible parked by the drive sat untouched, gleaming in the morning light. The front door of the mansion was locked, firmly. She couldn't have forgotten that, could she? She'd raced in through the kitchen door, which had a push bar locked, but she'd heard the click of the knob as she ran past it into the hall. Now she realized, with a heavy dread, the lock had been engaged from the outside. Someone intended this to happen. Medics reached her side. They swaddled Ethan in a blanket, pressed an oxygen mask to his face. She refused their offer of aid until she saw him safe on a stretcher. Then the agony hit, pain in her ankle like a hot poker, every muscle trembling. They slid her onto a gurney beside him. But she hardly felt it. Her mind spun through possibilities. Who would lock a mother out while her child burned? What twisted game was this? Within the hour, police and fire investigators combed the wreckage. The smoke alarms had been disconnected, wires snipped clean. The fire's origin point was traced to a candle left smoldering in the study, a trail of gasoline dribbled at its base. The lock scratch marks proved tampering, and the security footage from the main server had conveniently vanished. Yet miraculously, the off-site backup remained intact. Investigators replayed the video. Mrs. Cartwright, fair-haired and composed, had exited the front door before dawn, glanced back once at her son's window, then locked the door behind her. She murmured into her phone, "He'll sleep through anything." She closed the gate and vanished. Maya sat on a stool in the small interrogation room at the station, legs shaking, her scrub top dotted with ash. Detective Reyes slid her statement across the table. Her handwriting was shaky but legible. He regarded her with solemn respect. "You saved his life," he said. His words felt both monumental and hollow in her ears. She nodded, throat tight. "I did what anyone would have," she whispered. But she knew that wasn't true. Most would have run away, terrified by the flames. She had run toward them. 3 days later, Daniel Cartwright, the boy's father, stepped off a private jet into the heat of an airport terminal in New Jersey. He'd been in Switzerland on a speaking tour, oblivious to the inferno that claimed his home. His phone rang repeatedly. He answered, "Is Ethan all right?" The voice on the other end trembled. He listened, shock blooming. He hadn't known. His wife had told him the house was getting security upgrades, nothing more. And the nanny was looking after Ethan. He frowned, guilt carving lines in his brow. He booked the next flight home. The first thing he did upon landing was reach the hospital. He burst into the corridor just as Maya was escorted out on a wheelchair, her ankle in a splint, her face pale but resolute. He froze. Before him was the woman who saved his son, the one he'd never met, never thanked. He swallowed, voice caught. "Maya," he managed, his tone both reverent and remorseful. She looked up, brown eyes filling with wary relief. "Sir," she said softly. "He's awake, but—" She trailed off. Daniel's gaze found Ethan's door at the end of the hallway. He hurried to it and entered. There was his boy, clutching the singed teddy bear, eyes wide as saucers at his father's reflection in the glass partition. The boy let go of the bear and ran to the door, pounding on the glass. His muffled voice trilled, "Daddy." Daniel's heart fractured. He pressed his hand to the glass and whispered, "I'm here, son. I'm so sorry."